Hello and welcome to my Three Hopes Fluegel guide. In this guide I'm going to be going over the basic uses of Fluegel, some tactics to use on the class to help you, as well as going over the abilities and what each ability can be used for. So to begin, we'll start with the basic attacks. So you have your basic Y attack. It's just a horizontal slash, moves enemies slightly, deals low damage. Your second Y attack is basically similar to the first, does similar damage, slight damage scaling on it. You can kind of see here. It was kind of hard to see because Monica just killed that monk, but here, let's hit this guy twice. So that's your Y and your second Y. Your third Y attack is a uppercut that does kind of medium-ish damage compared to the rest of the attack, so a little bit more damage. Slightly more damage. It doesn't actually launch, it's just like an upper slash. So your first three Y attacks are basically just like light attacks that, you know, kind of hit everything in front of you. That's like the easiest way to think of them. Your fourth Y attack is actually a 3-slash combo. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it kind of does this like triple slash. So there it is. It has decent damage on it. Your Y chain is basically just used to be, to be spammed. In my opinion, this class really benefits from its class action and its heavy attacks. So the Y attacks only really exist to deal chip damage while leading into bigger things, I think. But we're going to finish these Y attacks. So the fifth Y attack is kind of similar to the fourth. So it's kind of like a faster slash. So like it almost looks exactly the same in terms of the slash pattern, but it's just like really this like rapid slash. So it has less commitment than the fourth Y. So if you're in a Y chain and you want to kill something and it's low health, you might as well just continue the Y chain. So you can see there it is. And then the sixth Y attack, we'll just go through the chain. It's kind of like these 3 slashes that are kind of in an uppercut motion, and it will launch enemies. So if you just go through the Y chain, there it is. Okay, so those are the Y attacks. There's nothing really too crazy about any of them. You know, it's a dual sword class, so every damage packet is smaller, but it adds up as you're attacking, so it doesn't really, it's just like aesthetic. Alright, so let's go into the launcher. So this launcher is weird. Most launchers tend to be low commitment. Launcher is your YX. So when we hit YX, that's not a commitment for a launcher. That's something to take note of. So if you want to just quickly launch an enemy, or just like knock fodder back, there's a lot of commitment on that, and you can eat a lot of hits for no reason. Most launchers are quite quick. This one has a few slashes beforehand, and then it launches. So it can kind of open you up and put you in danger. So just take note of that. It's an okay launcher. It's not the best. I'd rather have a quick, like if I want to launch something, I want to launch it now. I don't want it to take like this long. Like I already got hit trying to launch that while I was doing that. So just take note of that. So that's your YX. And then YYX kind of does this like flurry stab and then finishes in a final stab, pushing enemies back. This is pretty decent, actually. A lot of these moves will make a lot of sense after I start showing the class action, because the distance it knocks enemies back is actually extremely useful for keeping you mobile, which mitigates damage because when you're moving, you're a harder target, and also continuing up combos and juggling enemies. So, okay, so YYYX. This attack is really good. This one I really like. This one sends you flying. You kind of become like a ball of death. And then you dive in, hitting enemies multiple times as you're diving into them. You can juggle enemies, bounce enemies, reposition them, and then it ends in a stab. So let's do YYYX. So you can kind of see there. It can also be useful for dodging, so like an enemy's attacking you. You kind of dodge away from it and hit something else while it's doing that. And you can also use it to cover distance. So like let's say you want to approach an enemy. Enemies mindlessly chase you, so it can be a little annoying. But there you go. There's the juggle on it. That's how it can be useful if you get a juggle and it just pushes enemies around. Continuing a juggle is always useful in this game because a juggled enemy can't do anything. So it's kind of passively shut down. Okay, and then finally, my favorite attack, the 4Y, so that's hitting Y 4 times, and then X chain. The Purple Tornado. Hell yeah, dude. You can do this shit. You can get yourself your very own purple tornado whenever you want. This attack, I think, is really good, especially if you build up into it on fodder and bring it to an actual enemy. In this case, Monica knocked that dude off, like, away from us, but you can build up on fodder and then kind of, like, summon it. So you can kind of zone with this. That's the class action I just did, if you're wondering what the hell that was. So you can kind of, like, zone, and then it'll pull enemies in, even enemies that are attacking. So if an enemy misses an attack and you're just, like, building the chain on fodder or just, like, away from it, like, you can attack the air and still do the combo. It'll pull things towards you. Now, that can be a bad thing, too, because it can pull an enemy towards you that now hits you. So, like, once an enemy commits to an attack... in this case, this guy was actually... Let's see if we can do this. There we go. Alright, he's starting to chain on us. You can also dodge and do it. Your attack chain is pretty fast, so like if an enemy starts committing, let's see if I can get him to commit. We dodged most of it and just took like light damage. If you can get an enemy to commit and then dodge around them and just hit Y 4 times and X, you'll get a pretty big combo off, pulling all these other enemies. The big upside is it shuts down fodder, and fodder can actually kill you if you're not careful. Like if you have a critical weakness, like let's say you're like a Pegasus Knight and there's a bunch of archers around you. If a lot of them hit you, you can die pretty fast, surprisingly. So it can be really useful to be able to crowd control while dealing damage. But those are the basic attacks. So let's go over just some notes about the class, then we'll talk about class action, the tactics, and some basic combos and stuff like that. Alright, so you have a class gauge with this class. You might notice that there's 2 swords and a class gauge. It fills over time. It also fills per kill, like it'll fill a little bit faster every time you get a kill. So let's demo that. Let's just burn through it. Okay, so you can see it's filling, it just fills over time. And then let's like kill some dudes. So you can see it's filling faster as I'm getting kills. So it basically just fills over time, fills a little bit faster as you're getting kills. That's all you need to know for the filling mechanic. There's a few things it does. So let me burn through this just to show you. Alright, so the basic thing with the class action, when you hit X, you do this. The way this attack works is you slash, it's ranged, and then you follow it up. So the big upside to this is it's a zoning tool. So you can see there, if the enemy is like this distance away, I can kind of be away from them, hit them with this, and then follow it up. And all 3 attacks will hit at the same time for, in this case, around 300 damage. Now, obviously, the damage numbers change depending on enemy level, your level, stuff like this. But the damage is quite good. Now, keep in mind, when you have your first sword filled, you will get a slightly stronger version of this attack that's purple, and you can clearly see the difference. It goes from being kind of bluish-white to being purple. The distance seems to be increased slightly. The damage seems to be increased slightly. It probably breaks more armor, too. I haven't confirmed that yet. If you know the unique properties and you like tested it out, definitely drop a comment, because it's like really vague. But here's like the charged up version. The damage seems to be increased like very minimally, if at all. It's actually like, I was testing it and I would hit like 100 and then like a 300 for total. And then like with this, it's like similar. So let's get to the distance. Or he's a little bit too far away. Yeah, the distance is like pretty exact. You can easily overshoot the thing you're trying to attack, so it's like around this. And if the enemy moves around, you have to account for that as well. However, you don't need to account for that if you chain into it, and that's really the big upside of this attack. Is that it's almost like designed to be chained into. So while you're running around smacking things, doing your attacks, for example, let's even just do a basic launcher. So you can see there, the distance it launched the enemies to is the distance of the attack. I think the purple one does break armor better, if I had to guess. It doesn't seem to do more damage, and it doesn't state that it breaks armor better, so we kind of have to assume. So I know what you're thinking. You're like, alright, what's the second sword for? So the second sword you can just do the same attack, the same class action, then continue normal chain, then do the same class action. That's one way of using it. You can also combo into a unique attack that can only be achieved by having 2 swords. So I'm going to run around for a few seconds here, build up the second sword. I'm only going to show this once because it's kind of annoying to set up, but I just want to get the distance right. Alright, so that's the first class action, second class actions, all these slashes. There you go. Now I'll show it again. We'll just kind of build up, we'll go over other stuff while we're building it up. So the second class action is essentially like a flurry of heavy attacks, and it's hard to set up. If you launch an enemy and, you know, with your heavy attacks, it can be easier, and it's probably easier to combo into that, so I guess we'll try that next. But if you can't do that, you tend to overshoot the enemy, or they move around, and it's like, you know, it's gonna miss. So you have to have pretty good aim. So let's see if we can just get it. We overshot, I believe. Oh no, I didn't execute it. You do have to manually execute it. So like the first class action, when you hit X, we'll do the like slash and then leaping slash. Like you slash the wave out type thing, and then the second one will execute the other attack. So let's just get some fodder in here. Alright. There it is. Okay. And you can see even there I overshot him just a little bit and the big attacks missed him. So it's debatable how useful it is. Honestly, I think the 5th attack in the YYYX chain, like in your 4Y and then 1X chain, is a little bit better in general, I think. And I think you're better off just using like the single use of the class action, so to like continue a combo. I think that's, like, in my opinion, that's the best use case. Okay, so let's talk about tactics, then we'll go over the passives that you unlock from playing as this class, as well as the weapon skill. Okay. So I went over everything I wanted to. Okay, so class tactics. So kind of similar to Thief, you want to do hit and run tactics. So if you can, like, bait out an attack, or get, like, a perfect guard, obviously I did in that case. But if you can bait out enemy attacks while, like, running around, or just, like, hit an enemy when it's blocking, and then, like, you know, just combo on it, start a chain going, get your big attacks off. That seems to be the best use case. You can always open a chain with, like, an attack skill or combat art, kind of like this. So you can kind of see here how ridiculous it can get. And that's a class action there for juggle. Just continue a juggle. This class is really good at continuing a juggle. Like this class, Pegasus Knight, Falcon Knight, Cavalier, and Paladin are all really good at continuing juggles and just knocking enemies around like ragdolls. Like they're really good at just ragdolling enemies and killing them and just overpowering them. It doesn't even matter if it's a weakness. Like I'll go up to enemy archers as a Pegasus Knight and just fuck them up really fast, and there's nothing they can do about it. Because like once you get an opening on them and once they're staggered or once they're juggled, they're dead. It doesn't even matter. They're just dead. So it's pretty absurd. So it's a really good burst damage class. So you kind of want to just like, you can even kind of dodge with your attacks in a way. So here's like the class action use case, right? Start fucking them up. It seems like it can delay too. I think you can actually chain into different combos. So based on what I just saw there, so I did like Y, this. Okay, so let's try. That was like a different attack too. There's like different attacks that come out of this. Alright, let's try doing like some combos here. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous like how mobile this class is. Like you can be all over the place. It's pretty insane. You can continue to juggle for like a very long amount of time because you're just constantly hitting things, so it just constantly bounces them up. But I would say overall for class tactics, hit and run tactics, punishing enemy whiffs, perfect counter, and then punishing that. Just getting off basic combos, using your mobility to your advantage. Like you can see there, I just completely dove across the map. You can kind of keep like running through enemies, like running circles around them in a way. Getting the big attack off. class action to continue it. Okay, that was just the one Y attack. I thought I did like a unique chain or something. Because it's honestly sometimes when playing as this class, it's very hard to tell what's going on. It's like so spammy. There's so many particles flying everywhere. It's just like visually not clear. So like that's why it took me longer to make this video than other ones, because other classes it's like, oh, it's the priest that shoots out orbs. I haven't covered the priest yet, but like the monk. It's like it shoots out orbs, it shoots out this many orbs. Got it. This class is just like completely insane. Like visually, it's like kind of hard to tell what's even happening sometimes. But like every time I move with like a slash, it's either class action or the 3YX chain. So like this attack, then class action. The class action can be used to follow up too. And then the whirlwind tornado can be used. Like you saw there, I went behind that soldier charging an attack outside of his attack range, and then the attack hit him and pulled him in. Like this class is really good at just like spamming things down. And also, I didn't even mention this shit, the shadow flash stuff. This is ridiculous. Like you can just be like a ghost, you know? You can just like zoom around. So you can like zone like an insane person. So you're extremely mobile. I mean, Shez in general is extremely mobile because of Shadow Flash. But the class action lets you just continue to juggle things. And if you can get things into a corner or into a wall, they're basically dead. And there's very little they can do about it, unless it's like Byleth and it can recover. So, pretty crazy class. It's pretty good to have, too. Even just this attack is really good. Then you can class action out of this, double class action. Start to get a chain off. Get another whirlwind. You can just keep juggling things, seemingly indefinitely, until they're dead. Which is very funny. It's very fun to do. So, but once you understand how to do the juggle, it's really easy. Once you understand like the strength of the class and how to set these things up, it just kind of keeps going. And everything just dies. So, but I would say your basic chain, like that's not where most of your damage is coming from. Most of your damage and utilities kind of come from your class action and from your heavy attacks. So you're going to get a lot of value getting used to using those. Yeah, like once you get a juggle going, that's it. They're pretty much doomed. Oh, I accidentally did the launcher there and it slowed me down. Yeah, honestly, the launcher sucks. The class action basically launches anyways, so you don't even need it. It honestly is terrible. I don't understand why it's in here. It's like there's so much commitment on it. That's YX, your launcher. There's too much commitment on it, and the class action is essentially a launcher. Like you can see there, it's clearly a launcher that leads into easy juggling. So try to avoid launching. And this attack should only be used when you're not about to get hit by something big. Like if there's some, you know, dark mage or something, or a bunch of archers around that are like off on the side, you shouldn't be using like high commitment attacks in general. You should be focusing on like class actions, probably YYYX combo, then like class actions to kind of open things up. You want to get everything next to each other. So like one thing you can do in this game, and this is going to be like more in an advanced video, is you can use like attacks to start like balling things up. It's hard to do with fodder because they die fast, but let's say for example this was another enemy, right? Well actually, let's just let's say there's another enemy. This piece of grass right here is another enemy. So let's like actively, first let's get them away so I can show like how to line this up. But you basically line them up, you kind of dodge, you kind of bait them towards you. Like once you start getting them moving, you can kind of start to get them close to each other. This thing's gonna die before I can get into it, but in some instances, enemies will chase you and you can kind of ball them up. So like enemies will chase you, you can kind of get them to come to a certain point. So you can start hitting them into each other. Once you hit enemies into each other, this class excels in damaging them down with its short burst AoEs. So that's like one of the big things that you can do. And this attack's really good just for, like right there, I just dodged an attack, just positionally. And you're still hitting things while you're going through. And if you can dodge enemy attacks, and then get in a big hit, then get a juggle going, get some class actions in there, then start using your tornado. It's really insane. It's really good. It's really good. Okay, so that's the class. Let's go over the abilities now. I named him Purpal. Okay, so let's go to this. Then you just hit Y twice and then X. All right, so these are the class abilities, and then this is a combat art. So Carpe Diem, Dex and Speed +5. This is really good. You're going to want to run this on most builds. So this just, once you get to this, like the first star, you just unlock this. You can use this on anything. So this is good to get. Windsweep. This is just a combat art. I'm going to cover combat arts in a different video. Dual Wielder's Ploy increases the attack range of Asura and Fluegel class actions. So obviously you want to use this because increasing the attack range means you're going to hit more things and it's going to be easier to hit things. It also increases your range, so you definitely want that. True Awakening extends the duration of awakenings. So all of these are good, but these are the abilities it unlocks. And you can kind of see the branch. It branches into Swordmaster. So one thing you might want to do when going through this, you can see here that Mercenary, Myrmidon, and Thief have sword prowess. And these stack, I believe. So for each sword prowess class you deal, like, I think it's 10% per sword prowess unlocked. I'm pretty sure that's how it works because I noticed it was like 10% and then I kept like grinding out masteries and then it went to 20 and then 30%. So if you're going to be running this class, you're going to want to go down Myrmidon, Mercenary, Thief. You might want to get Assassin. Trickster, I don't know about. You definitely at least want Thief and Mercenary. And then eventually you're going to have to go down Swordmaster. And then Asura is also through Swordmaster. So this class turns into Swordmaster, which mechanically is a different class and is more like Mercenary / Myrmidon than it is like Fluegel, because it has the whole hit X after a heavy attack to do a quick another heavy attack, like whirlwind heavy attack thing going on for it, except it like does like a combo. So it's kind of weird, like this class, you learn it, you get good at it, and then there's kind of like a period where you have to grind out like Thief, Mercenary, Myrmidon, and then Swordmaster, and then you're basically playing like functionally a different class, but it's just something to consider while mastering this class. This is my like low level save. I'm about to beat Blue Lions on hard. I don't like how I have to beat the game before I unlock Maddening. I feel like that's annoying, but I'll do it. So okay, so those are the things you unlock. It is a sword class, so its weakness will be spears. Not much else as far as I know. You know, swords destroy axes, and then of course if you have a sword that has like Armor Slayer, there's swords that counter flyers. I don't know if there's swords that counter horses, but there's sword attacks. There's combat arts that counter horses. But swords are overall pretty good. They don't have too many counters. The classes that run them, at least, because you don't have too many weaknesses, so that is an upside. But overall, it's a pretty fun class, pretty good damage, pretty mobile, pretty easy to play, honestly. Like the skill floor on the class, like you can straight up play this class. Like I'm just going to button mash. I'm just going to keep hitting Y and X. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. I'm a new player. Cool, oh, cool purple stuff, neat. Like I'm just like button mashing. Just gonna, like you can literally do fine having no idea, just literally button mashing the whole time. Like I'm literally just button mashing as this class, and it's seemingly okay. Now obviously you have less control over what's happening, but you could probably beat the game doing that, to be honest. So, however, I'm hoping at least that Maddening is much harder and you actually need to use tactics. So like hit and run tactics and like building up this attack into like class action can be good. The other thing too is like the more you get used to it, you kind of get a feel for the distance. So like right there, I'm like using class action to dodge, and I built this up from the side. I would say this is a class that's easy to spam and do okay, but the more you actually play it, the more you get a feeling for the distance of the enemy to get your like class actions off, when to use certain heavy attacks based on what the enemies are doing. Because like one of the things you should mostly be doing is like watching the actual threat enemies. So like right there, I killed him because it's like a mock battle enemy, but I was about to dodge right as he attacked. So you want to get like your timing down. I'm hoping maddening is really hard. If it's easy, I'm going to be really disappointed. So far hard mode hasn't really been too bad for me. It's just more of an issue of beating the maps more so than like losing them. I think I lost one map because Dedu died, and he was like a green unit, and I just didn't have a healer to heal him, and he just kept taking damage, and it was just out of my hands aside from healing him. But then I ran Mercedes and just had her selectable, and I would just like babysit him and just heal him, and then it was like easy. So hopefully maddening's really hard. But yeah, that's it for Fluegel. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this useful. I'm going to be covering the combat arts in a different video, but combat arts can really open you up. Like you can see here, this combat art opened up this monk. They can really open up opportunities because, and then they'd even got an armor break into a combo. Now it's like that's lethal. So like combat arts are insane, and I'm gonna like this is the basic guide for this class, right? The advanced guides, I'll do an advanced guide for each class. The starter classes will be hard to do because they're so basic that there's not too much you can do with them. But for the advanced classes and the master classes, I'll do advanced guides for those for sure. Assuming that it's like difficult to play the class and there's like more going on than just kind of like button mash city. But in some cases, in most cases honestly, you're better off learning some things so that you don't mindlessly button mash and you actually know what you're doing. But yeah, thanks for checking this out, and peace.